All right, we're gonna pick up on that and move on to our next speaker, who's going to talk about the Internet of Things, securing the new world of smart interconnection and interconnectivity of devices. He's with the sales team lead at DACH, AirWatch by VMware. Please welcome Mr. Dominic Schmidt-Rieche. Good to see you. Hey.
Hi. So, good morning. Many thanks for the warm welcome. My name is Dominic Schmidt-Rieche. I'm the enterprise lead for DACH, Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And I'm hoping to talk to you today about the Internet of Things and securing the world of smart interconnected devices. Now, if I maybe put a bit of background towards that, and you're thinking, how is AirWatch by VMware relevant to this conversation? I think, you know, a lot of things might sort of seem to be that we're talking about perhaps sort of air pollution sensors, that sort of thing. And I'll give you a bit of background where AirWatch sits in this technology stack. So AirWatch is the worldwide leader of enterprise mobility management or mobile device management, more than 15,000 customers worldwide and managing millions of devices. And why would that be relevant to the Internet of Things? Well, the relevance really comes through our belief that the smartphone is going to be the remote control of the Internet of Things, where the confluence of the data collected from auxiliary devices back to the smartphone and then back to the back-end systems is going to come from. So we've seen mobile over the last few years, and we've seen it change lives over the last few years, but we think that IoT, Internet of Things, is going to be even more profound in terms of the change it will bring over the next 5 years. If we then maybe sort of take a little bit of sort of a look around that, what we are seeing is more and more devices becoming interconnected at an exponential rate currently. And these devices, this connectivity is really making our personal lives and our professional lives better and more efficient through that. But as with all new technology, really what we're seeing is that privacy of data and security is an absolute concern. But before we delve into that, I really wanted to go back and sort of maybe take a look at the first great Internet of Things device that was created back over 60 years ago. Now, previously, when you had a choice, maybe in your dark recesses of your age, you might remember televisions without a remote control. And back in those days, you might have had a chance to sit down, and me being the youngest of a few siblings would sit on the sofa watching TV. You know, when it was time to change a channel, my siblings would look at me and give me the prompt that I should be the one to get up, walk over to the TV, and change the channel. And obviously, maybe I was a bit of a censor there, as I felt a bit of a climate of fear because I would get beaten up if I didn't perform my function. You know, to take a look at that, really, what we came through is on the television is that a chap called Eugene Polly, you know, designed and brought to the market the first TV remote control. Now, how else would we be able to sit in front of our televisions today and have more than 1,100 channels maybe to look at, but still have nothing to watch on television? Televisions then sort of moved forward. You know, you see technology moving forward where the video recorder, the personal video recorder, moved over to become TiVo. And you know, TiVo has changed the business model. It's changed it from a product to a service. And you know, TiVo will take a look at your viewing habits. We'll start determining whether you're male or female, what type of programs you like, and start recording things and suggesting television programs to you based on your behavioral patterns. So you start seeing that analysis of that data that personal recorder collected. Now, we're seeing more and more like a TV remote control. These sort of technologies and services are being built in. And I guess if you try and put a dollar value around that, it'd kind of be difficult. Simply, if you take a look at televisions, none of us could imagine these days buying a television without a remote control. But where do you put the value to that? It's kind of difficult to do that. So what does that mean for the Internet of Things? Well, really what we're seeing is that the Internet of Things, the ingredients for this are coming together. You know, the idea is not necessarily new. You know, over the last 10, 15 years, this conversation has cropped up again and time and again. And really what we're seeing is a perfect storm of evolution with the ecosystem, making this technology really possible. So I guess what we're looking at, to draw a comparison maybe, take a look at the oil industry and fracking. We always knew that in certain aspects in those hills or in that landscape there was some oil to be extracted, but it wasn't economically viable to do so. And that was much the same with the Internet of Things. It wasn't viable to extract that information. But the ingredients are coming together, and really we're seeing a dramatic reduction in cost. And if we take a look at some of these ingredients, the cost of compute is really a fraction of its level in 1990. And certainly, the cost of bandwidth has decreased rapidly over that period in time as well. But if we take a look at some of the ideas around the Internet of Things that might have failed beforehand because of these ingredients hadn't really come together. First of all, we take a look back in 1993, Apple came out with a product called Newton. They really wanted to revolutionize our lives and bring a digital organizer, organize your life through that. Newton was a great, great idea, but unfortunately the ecosystem of the technology really wasn't there to support that idea. The battery life wasn't there. The screen, the touchscreen technology really wasn't there, and the bandwidth certainly wasn't. And, you know, Newton ended up being a bit of a failure in terms of it being a commercial success. But the Newton actually paved the way then for Palm to enjoy modicum of success in the marketplace when it came out in '96. You know, it had a better ecosystem around there in terms of the apps, the bandwidth, and that sort of thing, move forward. But, you know, Palm was also a little bit too early, bit ahead of its time because of the ecosystem supporting it. Then came along BlackBerry. And, you know, BlackBerry revolutionized the email experience for the industry and the end users out there, and certainly brought that. But it had an exceptionally bad browsing experience, mainly, again, through the ecosystem, the bandwidth that was available to provide that browsing experience. So then, after that came the iPhone, and really that sort of consumerized the whole experience. It brought the apps down onto the device. And really, we saw a move where BlackBerry had 70 million devices worldwide in that time period, and the iPhone really heralding the mobile internet era, where we're now over more than 1 billion devices connected to the internet. Then really, if we take a look at that in context of a stock impact, stock pricing. So if we take a look at Apple's stock price in the 5 years after Newton was brought to the market, we see it didn't really change much for Apple in terms of the stock price. If we compare that then through to 2007, when Apple brought out the iPhone, you know, it massively brought value to Apple's stock and their revenues. So why is that relevant for us? From our perspective, we're really seeing the smartphone being the remote control for the Internet of Things. And if we take a look at here on the slide, the number of sensors that are really within your mobile phone that will be able to provide data feeds back, you know, based on its location, its proximity, maybe its camera, GPS location, Wi-Fi connection, connection to ancillary sort of Internet of Things devices. It'd be able to really provide a confluence of where the data information stream is coming to your mobile phone and breaking out. So really, it's not about the connected city from our point of view. It's really about your connected life. And the smartphone really is the most ubiquitous Internet of Things thing. You know, it's lots and lots of sensors that it provides for IoT. So where do we see that? Well, we really see sort of 6 components supporting the Internet of Things. And from our perspective, I think Goldman Sachs have really had it spot on when they sort of said the Internet of Things is the 3rd big wave of Internet after the initial Internet boom and then mobile Internet. So next, it's going to be the Internet of Things. And you know, we really see the most important part around it is that we connect our physical world with the cyber world through the smartphone. So to bring that maybe into context, you know, right now, Google Maps will be able to tell you where to go. But in future, or currently, Internet of Things or Google Cars are actually going to be able to take you there. They'll be able to drive you. So you no longer have to be able to jump into the car and drive yourself. It can do it for you. And that's where we're heading for. So the relevance where we maybe bring AirWatch by VMware. So really, what's unique about this from our perspective? In terms of when we looked at our acquisition by VMware, we were really looking at, from our perspective, that we see mobility not being viable as a platform without end-user computing, and VMware certainly saw the end-user computing platform not necessarily being viable without a mobility portion. And essentially, our experiences bring us together a continuum of experience across there, from the data center through to the device, whether it's a desktop, a laptop, smartphone, or a machine. And really, we're integrating those three waves. So we sort of bring a wealth of experience around that. Unfortunately, most of the projects that we're working on are under extremely strict NDAs, but really that's where we see the confluence and our relevance to this marketplace. Now, if we take a look at AirWatch, really, we would be known about mobile device management, and we're the undisputed leader in that one. But really, it's just a bit of magic we can change. You know, all we have to do is change one letter to make ourselves more relevant. Mobile device management into machine-to-machine communications. And essentially, our roots were in machine-to-machine in terms of managing access points, SMP traps, and that sort of information, and bringing that back before we started chasing the money on the mobility world when the iPhone came out. So from our view, the phone is an IoT device and a communication channel. So the devices really connect to the phones to collect the info, and the phone is the remote console for the Internet of Things. So we manage the remote control AirWatch and bring that convergence through, hence our relevance for this conversation. So really, we see the OS is driving the IoT, and we'd started there. One slide wrong. So then moving forward, really, if we take a look at some of the use cases around there, Internet of Things today really is a collection of use cases. But they're on an individual level currently. What were products are being turned into services and providing perhaps dynamic pricing models. So we are seeing a step change in the business models that the Internet of Things will be able to provide service providers. So maybe in future, if we take a look at some of the examples, some of the complexity of systems, it might be that you connect your heating system in your house to the Internet of Things, so you're able to remotely provide commands when to turn the heating on and off and schedule that through. Now, that as a standalone service is kind of great, but you know, in future, we're going to see an interconnected level of these devices and these services. So really what we would perhaps see is that you would connect it to your calendar or to your phone in terms of where your location is, so that the device might see, okay, I'm actually running late, I'm still 200 miles away from my home, and through that proximity, my heating system knows not to turn up the heat because I'm too far away for it to make sense. Other areas might be in terms of a service providing a number of around that. If you take a look at maybe airplane engines, the business model has already changed where you know, airplanes are no longer buying the engines, they're leasing the engines as a service plan, and you know, having sensors within the engines to bring predictive maintenance through to the engines. So if there are components failing, that the sensor will notify and set off a chain of events that will bring the spare part required to the location where the airplane is flying to, so that can be fixed and ready to go for its next flight. So now you're actually paying for that service rather than a product. So the business models that the Internet of Things are going to be providing, they wouldn't be available without the Internet of Things. So really, we're seeing a lot more information being brought back through to the marketeers, to the businesses, around how these products are being used. So, you know, organizations, you know, don't want to know just whether you own a football, a basketball, or a set of golf clubs. They will also want to know about how often and where you're using those things. So if you are taking a look at this, we're really going to see moving from a single-tier system to an integrated complex. So really, that starts, as I said earlier, with using your phone to adjust your thermostat. You know, a custom-built app provides you that functionality. But really, where the difficulty brings is that that app has few standards. And really, where we see the evolution going is through connected systems, or through open standards that enables integration. So if we take a look at the challenges of the Internet of Things era, really we're sort of talking about this lack of standardization, be this across sort of chip components, data communications, or data format. And you know, we also see challenges around security, around the massive flow of IoT data that's coming back to the data centers. And really, none of us organizations want to be the TJ Maxx of the Internet of Things era. We don't want to be the organization that's responsible for 50 million credit card numbers being available on the internet and that sort of data breach. And we have to be sure about the security that we provide, and we have to get it right first time. Otherwise, we set back this era significantly by eroding the trust that the consumers have in IoT type services. The other side, really, another challenge that we see is around the speed of business. It isn't going to slow down. It's going to require more automation. So, for instance, we as organizations really have to take a look into the future and future-proof some of the innovations that we're bringing through. So today, we might sort of see that you have a smart card to enter your hotel room while you're staying here at the CeBIT. So in future, the consumer might demand to have that smart card replaced with their smart device, that they can hold up the smart device to the lock and be able to enter the room through that. But us as organizations have to look into the future, because we don't want to bring the same upgrade cycle that we might have with our smart devices, upgrading every 12 to 24 months to the latest model. A hotel is not going to go through and upgrade its hardware locks every 12 to 24 months. So, the consumers, the businesses that are going to take advantage of this also need to have the security that we're thinking far enough ahead to bring these use cases and that interoperability for the standards that we're bringing. And essentially, this will require all the levels of technology stack to come together. So, it's around standardization and many different competing standards that we have through there. So from our perspective, how are we looking to address that? So AirWatch by VMware, we've joined the Industrial Internet Consortium, and really that was founded to bring together the organizations and technologies necessary to accelerate the growth of the industrial internet by identifying and assembling and promoting best practices. So from our perspective, we took a look at that. And we've joined that not just as AirWatch by VMware, but all the companies within the EMC Federation. If we take a look at that, then we're really looking at that whole stack, where AirWatch takes a look at the management of the devices, pivotal around the analytics for the big data. We saw EMC to take the storage, and VMware, processing the workloads that the Internet of Things is going to bring. So it's all about the ecosystem of VMware, EMC, and the Federation, and the Industrial Internet Consortium. And customers need more integration and more interoperability. So that is an absolute key thing that we sort of see there. Going forward, if we go back maybe then to the Eugene Polly. Now, he was the inventor of the remote control, as I mentioned earlier, but he died a sad man. He thought he'd improved lives, but he took a lot of criticism. People were saying that he created the phenomenon of couch potatoes. But what we take a look at there really is one final quote that I'd like to leave you with, because we demanded to have that remote control. The consumers demanded that functionality. And the last quote that I'll leave you with is from Eugene Polly. He said, "Everything has to be done remotely now, or forget it. Nobody wants to get off that fat and flabby to control these electronic devices." And with that, I'd like to thank you very much for your attention. That's great.
So, do we have any questions from the audience? The audience has been very nice today. No questions? Let's talk about the challenges of the Internet of Things, the graphic that you had up here. What do you, just maybe if you could go over that again, what's the biggest challenge that you see in the Internet of Things? Because everyone is talking about that.
Absolutely. I think the challenge is going to be based around the confidence in the security and the data privacy of the consumer, having that confidence to enable that functionality, that they will take those services on board.
Yeah.
And I think if that confidence is shattered, it's going to set back the whole Internet of Things phenomenon.
Okay, give us an example. What is something that could happen that could shatter confidence?
Well, certainly if you, something that could shatter, but let's take a look if you have an interconnected home, and maybe if you had a smart TV hanging on your home which had a camera facing outwards, and that camera is connected to your internet system, to your Wi-Fi remote, and that goes out. So in terms of confidence being shattered, you're probably only one or two configurations away from someone being able to access that camera and being able to view what's occurring inside that room through that camera. So that interconnectivity is really key, and that confidence needs to be there that such security won't or can't be breached.
Do you think that too much is being promised right now in terms of security when we're talking about the Internet of Things, particularly for consumers?
Well, I think consumers have to be kind of aware that a lot of the Internet of Things is sort of occurring currently in sort of a single tier. And the complexity that we brought through is once that comes together. And in terms of that, probably we've got to make sure as those organizations that are acting in this environment that we're ahead of the curve on that security side of things. To bring that
when you say we, who do you mean we?
But anyone that's operating in the space. So
you're not talking about the consumers?
No, not about the consumers, about the service providers around that in terms of we. And I think the path forward has to be collaboration, open standards, providing security through that interoperability, and that the gaps aren't found through the discrepancies in protocols and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
If you take a look at why is that important, if you draw a comparison maybe into the medical world and in terms of pain management, doctors always say you've got to stay ahead of the pain. And the reason why they say that is that once you get behind the pain curve, the amount of medication that's required to bring that pain back to manageable levels is 2 to 3 times the amount of medication that was required beforehand to keep the pain in check.
Okay.
So I would draw that similarly across into security of why we have to be ahead of the curve.
So, okay, we have to be ahead of the curve. So the Internet of Things, it can be a painful experience right now is what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you very much. It was good having you on. Give me a round of applause.